Let's see. Coach Tim, how are you managing?
Man, this has actually been a huge blessing for me, being able to catch up on life, you know. So I've been trying to take a different approach a little bit and been doing a lot of things that I don't like to do. You know, just working on building my mental toughness, you know, making sure I'm staying in shape, doing a lot of running, trying to keep my mind sharp, and just educate myself. So when everything gets back to normal, I'm doing a little bit better job of teaching the game and making sure that I'm helping others the best I can.
That's good.
One of the things I will say about Tim is, you know, and this is part of our conversation today about player development in this world of skills trainers on every corner and guys that's calling themselves trainers. Tim is one of the few teachers of the game and one of the guys who really does a great job of breaking it down and teaching the why behind what he's doing. So I want to make sure I commend him on that publicly. Tim, keep up the good work, man. You're doing a good job. We see you.
Thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you, and it's humbling to even be here with all you guys. You know, I know I've worked with Eric a little bit, and you know, Jay Sass is my actual cousin. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but we really family. So.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And I've been following DA and all you guys, Coach Ty. You know, I mean, it's a great honor to be here, and like I said, I'm excited for it.
Tim, what about you? You check it out. What's your reaction?
Oh yeah, you know, I think it's amazing about the power of influence MJ had on just the game of basketball in itself. Like, you know, when you look at the Kobe Bryants and LeBron James or pretty much everybody on this panel, it just goes to show how influential he was in the game. And, you know, it made a lot of great players become great, you know, because he set that bar. And ultimately, you know, the impact he had on the game of basketball, I'm big on retaining information. You know, their ability to pick up on stuff and not forget it, because, you know, a coach's job in the middle of a game it's all about adjustments for a coach. You know, he's got to make sure that not just all, you know, the whole team coming out of timeouts or whatever, everybody's on the same page. But for players, a lot of these players nowadays, they lack awareness and they don't have the ability to make the adjustments in a game. And so when we're working out and focusing on building muscle memory, it's about also the communication for me. I got to make sure that I can simplify something that may seem complex for a certain player, simplify it to where it makes sense, to where they retain the information and it'll translate in the game, because now they're able to kind of correct themselves. So if they keep missing a certain shot, they could go back and identify the problem and actually correct it. And so for me, I'm just big on the mental part of the game, teaching more about the concepts. And, you know, another thing I see that's a huge problem is that these kids that work out, they're actually just training. They're not developing. And there's a huge difference between just working out and developing. And so for me, it's about getting that smart work and understanding your role on your team and becoming a star role player in that. But ultimately, man, it's definitely a process. And these kids, you got to fall in love with the boring work. That's just the reality of it. And a lot of them don't really have the attention span or the patience to go through that process of becoming great and mastering those little fundamentals. So just simplifying things, man, making sure that the player actually understands the concept, and then also putting them in situations. I see a lot of cone work out there, which I'm not knocking, but, you know, a lot of people that know me, I'm bones over cones.
Yeah.
So, you know, the best way I do it with a lot of my players is we'll do some one-on-one stuff, but then we'll choreograph a certain scenario. Mm-hmm. You know, so like we're working on DHO, and I'm gonna put them in a certain situation where they're allowed to trial and error, and they can learn on themselves to be able to correct their own mistake, because they don't play pickup anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's how we learn the game, and it's a read and react sport at the end of the day. And if you don't have a shadow boxer or what have you, it gets tough, and it's hard for your skill set to actually translate in a live game.
Hey, Bart, quick thing I want to ask Tim, why don't they play pickup anymore? Is it just because I don't get it, you know?
I think and I'm not knocking most kids. Like Eric loves the game. He a competitor.
Yeah.
These kids don't love basketball like we used to because everything nowadays is predicated off of incentive. You know, with the EYBL, with all these shoe circuits, and I'm not knocking it. You know, I'm a former EYBL coach, but it's the incentive what comes behind it. So I'm not going to do it unless I get a mixtape or I'm on Baller's Life or I got to get that clout that comes behind it from a social media standpoint as opposed to just playing the game for the love of the game. So if a college coach is coming to watch you play like Coach Derek, you got to be able to stand out. So what can you do? What's that one thing that you could really do very well? And that's something that you know, a lot of kids want to focus working on their weaknesses, but I flip that backwards and I focus on your strengths because by the time you're a junior or senior in high school, we got to get you ready for college. Not just to get that scholarship, but going in, getting 20, 30 minutes as a freshman because you're trying to go to the league. And then if you're in college trying to get to the NBA, we focusing on just your strengths to where you could go in being a star role player, or if you're a lottery pick like a PJ Washington, you know, with him, we focused a lot about setting good screens, angle ball screens, reading ghosting screens, having, you know, doing those choreographed workouts as well to make sure that he's prepared when he goes into the NBA, he's getting his minutes and he's efficient. Yeah, I think for me it's the art of conversation. You know, I hired a speech coach. You know, I'm very introvert, and so I hired a speech coach just to help me work on my communication. And I think in communication in any walk of life, just to get a better understanding of what you're trying to teach from a coaching standpoint, making sure that your message is very clear. For the player to actually retain the information and get a full understanding of what's needed from that player. And then on the player side, you know, this is one thing I loved about working with Eric is the willingness to ask questions, to be engaged. You know what I mean? What that does from a player-coach relationship, that builds trust. If I'm a coach and I got a player asking me intelligent questions, you know, I'm more likely to make sure that, you know, he's getting the right information. And during the middle of a game, I could trust that player and allow him to play through those mistakes because we've communicated and we're on the same page. We both know what we're trying to accomplish here. And ultimately, you know, I think that goes a long way as opposed to not communicating. So